For the first time in his term, a record number of New Yorkers now view New York Governor Andrew Cuomo unfavorably. Only 40% of respondents say they view the governor favorably. The majority, 52%, view him unfavorably. That is according to a new Siena poll.
When it rains, it pours. The governor is also under investigation for his use of state resources amid the release and promotion of his pandemic memoir. According to the New York Times, Democratic strategist and owner of JC Strategies, Jennifer Holdsworth Karp, and Senior Director of Policy at the Conservative Partner Institute, Rachel Bover, join us now to discuss.
Great to see you, ladies.
Good morning.
I figured this is something we can all get on board with, dunking on Andrew Cuomo this morning. It's a real unifying segment. Jen, let me start with you because, I mean, what a dramatic fall from grace. Just picking up on the poll numbers, this guy was riding high at 70 and 80% approval ratings, in part bolstered by the media and his own brother throwing him softball questions over on CNN, even as he was using potentially state resources to write his book that he got a massive book deal for, even as he was putting in this liability shield through which looked like very corrupt, basically written by the hospital industry that was devastating for a lot of seniors. And now the public is finally getting some insight into what he was actually up to during that time, and they do not like what they see.
They do not like what they see. I think the important distinction in this poll, though, and I've seen it in other places, is that New Yorkers are kind of tisk-tisking him, but they want him to right the ship. They don't want him removed, which is a very, very strange place to be in this poll. I think that the nursing home scandal is really what tipped the scales here. You know, obviously you saw a couple of weeks ago, the entire congressional delegation call for his removal in light of the sexual harassment and sexual assault allegations that are happening to him. The public didn't even turn on him then. It was only when a lot of the nursing home stuff came to light when you started to see public sentiment change a little bit. I think New Yorkers are also very keen to political games that happen behind the scenes in New York. You know, the Tish James investigation, while completely warranted, also is tinged with politics. And I think they're skeptical of that. So I think that if you're going to go after Governor Cuomo, you have to do it in a very politically sophisticated way. We know that, you know, the New York media is one of the toughest in the country to sort of break into. And Governor Cuomo has commanded it for quite some time. So I think that you're going to have to be very sophisticated, very forceful, very consistent in order to take someone of his stature down. But I think that he's continuing to give the opposition missteps over and over and over again. You know, this latest one is debatable. I think that there were some people who, you know, used government time to review sections of the book where they were mentioned. But if that's not the extent of it, then he's going to have to answer for that.
Well, Rachel, I want to pick up on a point there, which is, you know, earlier I said when it rains, it pours. And some of this does really seem like the media is smelling blood in the water. And my question to you is, you know, I'm curious, do you think some of the stuff with a more critical media would have been caught months ago, especially as it relates to the book tour and the nursing home scandal as well, as something that conservative media latched onto long before any other people in the sort of legacy media decided it was an issue? Do you think some of this is really coming downstream of the fact that the media wasn't catching it when it was happening, and now that there's been this sort of outpouring after the nursing home scandal hit the legacy media, then it's, you know, okay to start talking about some of these things, whether it is the serious sexual assault and misconduct allegations leveled against him, or the media is now looking into how he was using state resources during the book tour?
This is the story of Andrew Cuomo, you know, propped up by a completely uncritical press, you know, that ignored, I think, a lot of significant warning signs that something was amiss in New York, but gave him this sort of glory tour, you know, about how, oh, Andrew Cuomo is going to run for president. Andrew Cuomo is leading the country in the COVID-19 response. None of, I think, the critical reporting that could have uncovered a lot of this earlier and maybe stopped some of the really destructive decision making that was coming out of the governor's office. You know, but instead you got, you know, the Brothers Cuomo show on CNN, you know, giant Q-tips and guffawing and backslapping instead of the media actually doing its job. And now I think, you know, where enough has bubbled to the surface that you actually can't ignore it. that is now when the media is sort of kicking into gear. And you have to think, would these poll numbers be different? Again, had there been months of critical reporting, a solid year of it instead of just the last couple of months. But, New Yorkers, I think, are also pretty used to corruption. New York is a historically really corrupt state.
Numb to it.
Yes, known to it. The New York State Assembly Speaker finally just went to jail for 6.5 years for bribery. So, they take what they can get in New York.
I mean, one of Cuomo's top aides is already in prison for corruption. So it's not like this is the first time that he's seen a scandal. But I think you also have to think about why he was so useful to the media at the time. He was held up as like the anti-Donald Trump, as Trump was failing in all the ways that he genuinely was failing during the coronavirus crisis. Oh, you have this like other strong leader who's giving these press conferences and telling it straight to the American people. So he was sort of a useful foil for that media narrative that they wanted to craft. Well, Trump's gone, so he's less useful now. But Jen, I wanted, thinking about your comments, of all the scandals that he's been embroiled in, and I think he's facing 4 separate investigations now by different government and federal bodies. But, I almost wonder if the one that hit the hardest was the disclosures about how he was given special access to coronavirus tests to his brother, to his friends, to his family members. At a time when New Yorkers couldn't get COVID tests, he was having public health doctors go to the homes of his friends, allegedly, according to the reporting, and then state troopers would rush those results to the lab, stick them at the front of the line, and give these people VIP access. I just think in terms of viscerally landing with the people of New York who went through hell last year, it seemed to me like that was the moment when the numbers really started to turn south for him.
So I think that definitely broke the dam. But Crystal, I would love to agree with you that this was the sort of straw that broke the camel's back. But when, you're sort of in New York and you're hearing what people are saying about him, it's just not as sexy as some of the other things folks are talking about. Now, I was born and raised in New Jersey politics, so New York corruption seems really quaint on the other side of the bridge. But I think that I have to make a distinction between how some of the media treated him. I just can't lump all of them together. Obviously, we saw the horse and pony show, the dog and pony show on CNN was in really poor taste. I think you have the New York Times sort of falling all over him. Maybe sophisticated articles in Cranes and such.
MSNBC also.
MSNBC, I don't even watch it anymore. It's unbearable.
Yeah.
But I don't. I cannot watch a single solitary second, which is very sad. But, outlets like the New York Post, which obviously I love to hate on because I think they have such an unbearable conservative slant, really called him to task on this. The New York Daily News didn't let it go. They focused on it. You have more, the local blogosphere that is really read by the political class, city and state. You've got some, local borough outlets that really focused on this. And then you had local TV stations like, Sarah Wallace from NBC. You had the local ABC that focused on it. You had New York One, which is a very well-known local outlet, TV outlet in New York City that actually did focus on this. So I just can't lump all the media in together. But having said that, the biggest outlets, which gets the most national exposure, absolutely ignored what was going on every day. And I think that obviously he was the benefit of that. As soon as that was peeled away and they sort of focused on a different squirrel, then I think we got to see what was actually happening in New York City.
Very good point. I would add Daily Poster, David Sirota's outlet, who did some of the great journalism early on about the nursing home scandal. And I would add your friendly hosts here at Rising, who have been looking into this for close to a year now at this point. Ladies, great to see you both. Appreciate you so much.
Next on Rising, David Dan discusses how crony capitalism is putting Biden's jobs plan at risk when Rising returns.